In the 1980s, there was a civil war in the United States between mothers and the video game industry. That war lasted about a half decade, and when the dust finally settled, the ESRB was left standing, a system that was supposed to help mothers and parents alike buy games that were appropriate for their children. Now, with the introduction of Poppy Playtime and Huggy Wuggy, the waters of the ESRB are getting murky, and a new civil war between angry mothers, video game companies, and censorship of our media could soon be on the horizon. So stick around, and let's learn something new together. Now, when you hear the name Poppy Playtime, what comes to mind? Maybe a kid's show like the Teletubbies or SpongeBob? And if that's the case, unfortunately, you're wrong. This is actually the title of a new and extremely popular new puzzle/horror video game. And this is definitely not the first puzzle/horror video game to come out, and it definitely won't be the last. Now, these games come out in chapters and can leave the gamers waiting weeks, months, and sometimes even years for the next chapter of the game to come out, which would include more levels, puzzles, enemies, sometimes new designs of levels that they've already been to, and even new characters, weapons, and vehicles. Now, these episodes really started kind of coming about in the year 2006 with the episodic video game genre. Now, this actually started with Half-Life 2 Episode 1 and vastly expanded the video game companies. Really just all jumped on board, and they were just like, we have to do this. This is amazing. We can now focus on just 3 to 5 levels at a time, making them super awesome, putting lots of cool stuff in there, and then sell those at $10, $15 rather than a $60 price point. So it made more people able to afford the games, and now you could buy exactly what you wanted in the game, just this level or that level, instead of buying the whole thing all kit and caboodle, which was cool. Now, Chapter 1 and Chapter 2 of Poppy Playtime are already out for download now, and Chapter 1 is really what we're going to be focusing on today and where our story takes a strange turn. Now, you see, children can pick up on little phrases like Poppy Playtime and Huggy Wuggy very easily, and this game was never really designed with kids in mind, unfortunately. And there are jump scares, blood, creepy characters, and a ton more in just the short Chapter 1 of this game. So if this game wasn't made for kids, then how are kids playing it, and why are mothers outraged? Well, stick around. I'll have some answers for you. So Huggy Wuggy sounds like a nice guy, but in the game Poppy Playtime, Huggy is actually not a very nice bear. You see, in Poppy Playtime, the toys all come back to life, just like in the movie Toy Story. Now, unlike the movie Toy Story, instead of the toys coming back to life just to play, they're actually coming back to life to play with the humans in kind of a very seductive, evil way. Obviously, this game was not made for children, and this scary atmosphere is the main setting for the entire game. Now, you are a former employee of the factory that returns to the factory because he got a letter stating that there was something going on and he needed to come back, and so he does. And then this is where the malicious toys start trying to attack him, and you have to try to escape. Now, obviously, this game was definitely not meant for children, and this is kind of where the problem comes in. Poppy Playtime and Huggy Wuggy sound like normal kids' topics that most search engines and firewalls just won't catch or screen out based on just what a kid's typing in anyway. So if your child searches these names, the game will be the first thing to come up. It doesn't also warn any players or people coming to play the game or even check it out that it's not meant for kids at all. In fact, on the Steam Marketplace, which is one of the main places to download it, I couldn't find the ESRB rating anywhere listed on their information page. Nor could I find it on the Poppy Playtime website, which is a real shocker. I did find it on the Google Play Store listed as teen. Now, what's interesting about the teen rating is that the game creators have come out and stated that they never intended the game to be getting kids' attention, nor was it intended to be a kids' game. It was supposed to be for adults. But they did state that they did give it a rating of 8 years and older that are allowed to play the game. So if it's 8 years and up, then why does it have a teen rating? Well, this is kind of where the mad mothers come in. You see, back in the 1980s, these angry mothers came after the video game industry as well as the MTV music industry, attacking music videos, music album sales, and all kinds of just nasty media that was just kind of being poured out at that time. Now, they really, all in all, failed at their succession of censoring music and video games, but they were successful in implementing a system kind of with the government's help. Now, this is where the ESRB comes in, and the ESRB is a rating system used to establish what is appropriate for the children as well as what's appropriate for adults. So is the rating system faulty, or is there really something else going on here? Stick around, and I'll have some answers for you. Back in the 1980s, the entire video game industry was really under the microscope of not only the United States, but really the whole world. And the government was really forced to step in here and make the gaming industry come up with its own rating system that would be easy for everyone, including, adults to children, to understand. And the government was going to do this verbatim if the gaming industry decided to do it or not. So this is where the gaming industry decided to form the ESRB, which stands for Entertainment Software Ratings Board. And this is made up of 5 officials who are appointed by the president, and they can make a small team of people that will get to review every single game that's coming out and give it an official rating. Now, it wasn't just the government that jumped on board, but all retailers as well, or at least the majority of the leading ones, like Walmart jumped on board, as well as Babbage's, which is now GameStop, wink wink, also jumped on board and only started selling games that were rated specifically by the ESRB system, and if they hadn't been rated, they won't be sold in their stores. Now, that was a huge problem back in the 1980s, but in the early thousands and now, that's no big deal at all. And this is where the internet exploded and became a huge marketplace for games of all kinds. And this is where we got to see companies like Steam just explode, as well as Origin, Epix, and tons more that all started selling their games digitally rather than through a retailer. Now, their games are still sold through retailers, so they're making money from that brick and mortar store, but now they can sell online in the cloud, and anybody can just download no matter where you are, and voila, you get to play that game. Now, the ESRB still rates the games even though they're coming out online, and there's never really been an online exclusive game. There's been a few that have come out, but they usually get crossed over to a console at some point, and then they would have to get an ESRB rating. This is where our main story comes back into play. When you got sites like YouTube, TikTok, and more that are just making these games not only more popular, but it's making it easier for kids to find game content without even really having to try. Now, you can't actually play the games on YouTube, but in some cases, just being able to watch some of this violence and gore could be enough to scare some children very easily. With everything also having a search engine, it really doesn't take much to find Poppy Playtime or Huggy Wuggy videos, as well as whole walkthroughs of each chapter of the game. And this is where the industry is kind of starting to suffer. How do you release something scary and good without scaring the wrong audience? Well, it's actually all in the marketing of the game. And in this case, the parent company, Mob Games or MOB Games, did a really bad job screening their ads right for the correct audience, as well as doing market research on their characters like Huggy Wuggy to see if it would be seen by the wrong audiences altogether. Is this going to be something that's going to be searched by people or adults, or is this going to be something searched by your young 2-year-old? Maybe something you should have researched. And several other gaming companies have done this sloppy advertising campaign only to have their games either ripped apart by the government or censored really badly in the end. And I'm talking like Grand Theft Auto, Mortal Kombat, and many more have had this happen to them. And this is honestly where the ESRB has kind of just gotten lost in the mix. With games being rated but then being sold online, in stores, and everywhere else, it's really easy for gore and violence to end up in the wrong hands or be seen by the wrong eyes. So is it up to the ESRB to fix this? Or maybe it's up to the government? Actually, it's up to the gaming industry to fix this. Shame on them for not taking steps to prepare their audiences better for what they're getting themselves into. These companies didn't need to be censored, but they do have to have a special marketplace just for these types of games that only adults can get to. This could be easily set up if the marketplace asked for a credit card that validated not only the gamer's address, but correct name as well. Verifying the age is also correct. Again, mothers are mad for the right reasons, but are trying to censor games and media in the wrong way that would just destroy the industry altogether. Now, in the end, Poppy Playtime was just a red flag for parents to make sure that their kids are not playing and seeing the wrong material. Blame the video game industry for pushing boundaries of what is considered art since its conception. You also should not rely on the ESRB to make sure that your kids are playing and seeing the appropriate games. Make sure your internet, PC, tablets, and game systems have the correct settings that are appropriate for your child's age, and check the search and marketplaces to make sure they are also working correctly. Hopefully our games, music, and movies will continue to be made without the government telling us what they can and can't censor, and if the ESRB can't control the content of the games in the future, then the government may be willing to step in and do it for them. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Will, your host, and I hope you all learned something new. I know I did. I'll see you all next time. Just like they did in the movie Toy Story. I'm going to start this whole section over again because I feel like I'm doubling. Now this is where our story... Okay, let me start again. Wearing the wrong audience. And where... Okay, I'm going to try it again. So how do you really scare games? So is it up to the ESRB... Whatever. By asking for a credit card that not only